All right, hey folks. So today I'll be talking about the real value of standards and why we use them. But firstly, thanks for making it onto my channel. If you have any questions or comments about today's videos, please pop them down below. All right, now I am about to hit you guys with some absolutely galaxy brain concepts, the likes of which you will need a very high IQ to understand. This is your final warning. If you're not ready for that, then please do turn away. All right, so cracking on with the video. Now, I released a video about strength standards the other day. And I wanted to clarify why we have standards, what that's useful for. Yeah. Now, back in the 17th century in the UK, the standard for beauty was that of being very pale and also relatively overweight, beauty for a woman. Now, the reason behind that was if you were pale, it meant that typically you were of the aristocracy. You didn't need to work outside. You didn't need to toil for your food or for your money. Okay. And if you were relatively sort of overweight and obese, that meant that you were well off. You could afford to be overweight because it wasn't easy to be overweight back in those days, you know. So that was the standard of beauty back in the day. And if we look at an example closer to home, an example for bodybuilding, this is a comparison here of Frank Zane. Now, just focus on Frank for a second. Frank was the standard of aesthetics, say 50 years ago. Okay. And Frank won the Mr. Olympia at about 180 pounds, 185 pounds. Obviously, an amazing physique. Yeah. Now, the standard has moved on since then. This is Chris Bumstead, who is a tremendous bodybuilder and would be the equivalent category with Frank today. Chris has all the same lines. Chris has the same vacuum, if not better. Has definitely a better level of definition than Zane. He's more ripped. He has more shreds everywhere. And on top of that, he outweighs Frank by about 40 pounds. Chris is about 225 on stage. Frank was about 185. So he's a tremendously bigger guy and he's leaner. He's more shredded. He's got more muscle per inch. So in every single way, if Frank was put next to Chris in today's era, let's say they were both at their peak, Bumstead would absolutely dominate him. In fact, Frank wouldn't even really place in most of today's amateur competitions. So the standard has moved on since then. Now, why is it important to have standards? Why is it important to have goals and standards? So, because I put up this this video and there was a few sort of comments which were like, oh well, like you missed this out. Oh well, like these standards are too arbitrary, or oh well, these standards are too high. Oh well, these standards are too low. That's not the point of these standards, guys. The point is not to have this absolute goal that you aim for. So not everyone who goes for classic physique, where the standard is Chris Bumstead, it doesn't mean that if you don't reach Chris Bumstead's 225 on stage, looking like him with his lines and everything else, that you've failed. And also, conversely, if you start off and it's your first competition, you're like, well, I can't compete yet. I don't look like Bumstead. Really? Really? That's not why we have standards. Yeah, there are standards like Bumstead, which possibly very few people would achieve, but there are standards which are more regular standards, which we can achieve. Standards are there to aim for as lifetime goals. Now, if you do hit them, great. Even if you fall short, that's fine, because the point is why we have the standards in the first place. And this is the big level concept here. We don't have standards just to judge ourselves by those standards. We have standards to focus ourselves. We have standards to say that it doesn't mean that if you don't hit the standard, like you're a failure. It doesn't mean that if you don't hit the standard right now or tomorrow, you're a failure. It doesn't mean that if you don't ever hit the standards, you're a failure. They are there to help to focus you. So when it's a Monday, yeah, and you've got chest to hit and you've got your numbers to hit, but I don't know, you've had a bad day at work, you've not slept very well, the boss has been shouting at you, the wife is annoyed with you, the kids have use your favorite whiskey to clean your desk with, and I think you're doing you a favor, and all these things have happened. Someone's cut you off in traffic and you still have to go to the gym, but you can't be bothered because of all those things have happened. But in the back of your brain, you've got these standards that you're trying to hit. They focus you because you've got these goals and these targets, so they help you do the right thing day in, day out, week in, week out. That is why we have standards, people. That is why we have goals. They are there to focus you. And that is what I used those standards for when I was younger, because no matter what else was going on, no matter if I had ideas to do this amazing special training program where I was going to get a triple burn on the delts and a quadruple burn on the biceps at the same time simultaneously, and eat protein every hour or something like that, I don't know what else, but no matter all those crazy ideas that I might have had while I was coming up, I still had my goals, the standards that I was aiming for. So they helped to keep me focused on the right path. That's why we use standards, people. It's not to say, oh, well, this is like a little bit too high, a little bit too low. This is not quite, this wasn't done touch, whatever. They are there to help to focus you. Don't get down into the weeds. They are there to aim for. And when you do, if you do ever get to them, and if you do get them, great, set some more goals and aim for those as well. That's why they're there. They're there to give you concrete goals. Because you ask most people when they go into the gym, like, what are your goals? Well, they'll say, I want to get jacked. I want to pick up girls. I want to have bigger biceps. But what's the actual, you need something which is tangible, an objective goal. So standards help to give you an objective goal, because without that, your goals may just be very vague, and vague goals are hard to hit, because how do you hit a moving target? How do you hit something which has never been defined? That's why standards are useful, people. They're not just to sit there and go, okay, oh, well, like this is the wrong goal. Oh, well, like I can't hit this. Oh, well, this is too high. Oh, well, this is too low. That's not why it's there. If you're thinking that, you're looking at standards in the wrong way. They are there to help you progress. That's what they're there for. That is the big brain concept that I want you guys to understand. Obviously, I'm being a bit facetious with the whole high IQ, big brain thing, but that is my message for the day. Like, standards or goals are highly useful, and they have to be objective, because then they can be measured. But don't let the measure put you off, or start to dig into it and go, well, yes, but I weigh less, or I'm this body weight, I'm this height, so I can't hit those goals. What are you talking about? You're missing the point. The point is they are there to help focus you, so you carry on doing all the things necessary to hit your long-term goals. Yeah, that's the point. And if you don't agree with them, fine, come up with your own standards. But the point is, have some that you're aiming towards. And the whole thing about this is why I don't generally go for body weight standards, because that's not going to help you put on muscle, right? Like, if you're 150 pounds and your regular height, 5'9", 5'10", or whatever, and you should be more along the lines of 180, all the body weight multipliers are going to do is limit you. What we're after is hypertrophy, growing muscles. That's why these standards are there, because okay, you're aiming for that amount. I think somebody said in the comments that body weight multipliers are just cope for smaller guys. And for you guys who don't understand the phrase, it just means it's a sort of like a coping mechanism to explain away why they're not big and strong. Well, it is somewhat. It's a bit of a harsh way of putting it, but it is somewhat. It's a bit of a cope. So you're supposed to have lofty goals. Like, you can better believe, guys, when I first started off and I was a really fat, overweight, what was that, 200 pounds. 200 pounds with hardly any muscle mass, an absolute mess of physique. Like, those goals helped to focus me. They helped to focus me, They helped to keep my training on the right path. And I firmly believe that that was a large part of what was responsible for me making such massive progress that first 2 or 3 years, because I was stone cold focused on those goals. And that's all I was focused on, while everybody else around me was trying the new pump, the new burn, the new spin, all that kind of stuff. I was like, no, I'm going to dip, chin, overhead press, squat, partial deadlift, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's all I did pretty much for like the first year or so. And that's how I developed so much good muscle in that first year. So that's what standards are actually used for, people. Yeah, that's why they're useful. They're useful to keep you on the right path. If you don't agree with one or two of those, fine, cool, go for it. Make your own standards, okay? Standards by their very nature are arbitrary. Name me some standards which aren't arbitrary. Please put them down in the comments. What standards aren't arbitrary? Go ahead, I'll wait. What standards are not arbitrary? They all have to be identified at some point. The standards for beauty are arbitrary. They've changed throughout the years. The standard for classic physique is arbitrary. It changes throughout the years. What standards aren't arbitrary? The point is, don't get bogged down in the weeds of what the current standards are. Use them to focus your efforts towards your goal. That's the really intelligent way to actually use these goals and standards. All right, folks, hopefully that was useful. If you appreciate that, give it a like. Maybe that one will rustle some jimmies, I don't know. But either way, that's how I feel about it. And that is actually how you use them for your benefit, rather than waste your time arguing on the internet. All right, folks, I'll call it there.